With our first test, we will locate duplicate payment records in the paid invoice table. We will achieve this by running a Find Duplicates query on the records in the paid invoice table, querying for duplicates in selected fields and reviewing the results, and then applying filters to show records that have similar values. We already have the Access database open that holds all of our invoice record information. We have a linked table that holds these invoiced records, called Invoices Paid. We will go to the Query window and select New to begin a new query. From the New Query selection box, we will select the Find Duplicates Query Wizard to help us build the duplicates query. This wizard creates a query that finds records with duplicate field values in a single table or query. The Duplicates wizard will make it very easy for us to find records where there is matching record information. We will be using the Invoices Paid table to compare records. We will select this table and press Next. In this dialog box, we will select the two fields that we would like Access to look at for duplicates. We want to look at the vendor number and the invoice number fields to find all records where a vendor has submitted an invoice number more than once. We will select these fields by highlighting and clicking the single arrow button next to each. In the next dialog box, we will be adding additional fields where we want to display them as well. We will choose the invoice amount and the invoice date fields. In the next dialog box, a name is supplied for the query. We will rename the query Find Duplicate Invoices for Vendors. We are finished. Notice the records displayed. There are numerous records with matching vendor and invoice numbers. We close this query example and continue with another duplicates query. For the next query, let's see if there are duplicate invoice amounts for the same vendor. This query might bring up a different subset of vendor records because the invoice number doesn't have to match. Again, we will create a new query using the Find Duplicates Query wizard. We will also be using the Invoices Paid table. This time we will select the vendor number and the invoice amount fields to compare similar dollar amounts for a vendor. In the next dialog box, we will include the invoice number and invoice date fields to display these fields in our query results screen. We will name the new query Find Duplicate Invoice Dollars for Vendors. When we click Finish, we will be viewing all records where there are exact dollar matches for the same vendor. In the table view, let's sort all records by invoice amounts in descending order. This way we can see the larger payments on top. Notice the top 7 payments for the same vendor are the exact dollar amount. The payments are 1 month apart, spread out over 7 months. The next 5 records are for the same vendor with the same duplicate payment amount. They too are spread out 1 per month. This scenario would be very probable if there was a payment method that required equal monthly payments. Another method to use to analyze records that you believe are suspicious is to apply filters in your table to view records that have similar data. We will return to our table window and open the Invoices Paid table by double-clicking on it. We will run a filter using the Filter For option to locate a single vendor number by right-mouse clicking on the vendor number column and then entering in the vendor number. We will type the vendor number in the Filter For position. When we press Enter, the invoice records for just this one vendor appear. To continue, we want to find a single invoice amount. Again, we use the Filter For option by right-mouse clicking in the Invoice Amount column and typing in the amount we're looking for. After we press Enter, Access applies the second invoice amount filter to the first filter. Now we have isolated the records with the same vendor number and invoice amount. We can look at the detail of these suspicious records. Notice that the invoice number is the same for both records. And notice that the payments were made 1 day apart. We will print this information to keep a record of our results.